Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are about 20 minutes after market close on Monday, August 30th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Now, SoFi today up a little bit. It had a pretty challenging power hour, I believe. Well, Webull does not want to work for me here, so I'll just hover over the daily candlestick and tell you that it was up 1.07% on about 15.2 million in volume. So you do see the volume here coming up more in line with the average. So good to see that because last week we were sort of talking about the peak volume coming in was sell volume. So good to see that that is at least starting off the week on the flip side. Now, if we go out, I guess we can go to the daily here. We see the drop off, like sudden and steep drop off at the end of the day, and then just sort of barcoding. It does end up to be this really ugly barcoding type chart, which aligns pretty strongly with, I think I had also talked on Friday about one of the commenters here and tweeters that I get to communicate with quite frequently, Paul, talking about the manipulation in SoFi and pinning it to max pain and that sort of thing. So we're going to have more coming up in that as we get part 3 of the Weird Weird World series out. If you haven't caught part 1 of Weird Weird World or part 2 of Weird Weird World, go back and watch those. It's just taking me longer to get through. As you know, I've had some situations at home come up recently, and it's just kind of slowing things down from putting those slides together, but we'll get there. I did want to mention there is sort of this wedge forming at the moment, so we get a couple of higher lows coming in on the daily with some lower highs forming. Now, the degree to which that this continues, we could see this wedging out around the 7th of September, 6th, 7th, 8th. It gets pretty tight in there, so we'll see if that comes into play at all next week, if it stays in this range, sort of TBD. At the moment, it's pinning itself to this 1411 support zone, which we had charted a while back, and bouncing around between that and this 1502, I believe. Yeah, resistance zone right above it. And like I've been saying, I'm very hopeful that I can hold this 1411 because to my mind, if it can't, there's this 1305 is the next really strong support zone below. Now, whether it needs to dip all the way down there, maybe it can get caught by this 1356 area. Maybe it doesn't have to stretch all the way down there this time, who knows? But it does sort of unlock the possibility of a pretty steep drop. $1 drop at this point is a pretty big percentage for such a low cost stock. Now, MACD also just kind of flattening out, just doing this like nothing type of situation. That said, the bearish momentum is completely squashed for the time being. Now, whether or not that comes back and rears its head, who knows? But for the time being, it seems to be okay. Now, the 20 and the 50 MAs are coming down, and they're getting close to aligning with a bunch of these resistance zones that we have plotted up here. I would actually feel pretty good about that, because what I hate to see happen is SoFi catching a green wave and making a run at this 1502 and then immediately getting battered back down because the 20 is sitting somewhere in between and having to contend with that, and then the 50 right behind it. So I'm glad to see these two kind of keeping pace with each other. Also hoping that the 50 is not going to come in and too heavily influence anything around this 1502 area. We'll have to see how that develops. But if it can stay up close to this 1629-ish level, that to me would be, an additional, I don't know if upside is the right word, but it at least wouldn't be an additional sort of negative factor, which is what we've grown accustomed to these days. Now, on the data side of things, we see the flow coming out today, I guess I should say. No large inflow, but large outflow coming in a little bit. Nothing too significant, but certainly coming out. And then, slightly higher outflow on the medium side as well, and also on the small order. So more outflows coming out, though we had a green day. So just watch out for that in the days ahead and see what that sort of effectuates. Now, I'm sure you all know by now, PayPal came out today and said, or at least got sort of socialized today, they're exploring a stock trading platform for its US customers. I sort of assume one of two things is happening here. Either that's really underway and they're sort of putting this kind of soft launch out there. If we're thinking about doing this to sort of gauge reaction to see where they can go with their actual launch of that product that's been being built, or they are actually kind of testing the waters and seeing what the reaction from the public is to that, and seeing if it's worth sinking the time and money into to develop that platform. So I don't know how real that could be. I haven't read many of these articles in depth, so maybe they explain a bit more there. We could see if Benzinga comes up. Yeah, so I mean, if they're hiring teams and stuff like that, then I would assume that they're, oh God, that they're pretty far down the line with this, and that they're actually just choosing this as sort of, the way to communicate it. Now, that obviously coming in and butting heads with SoFi, an area in which they are already participating, and that potentially challenging news being met with the news that we saw a couple of days ago where Noto bought more shares. So continuing to buy the dip essentially is what Noto's doing. And to my mind, I don't know. I don't know that there's a way for us to really get clarity on this. It could be optics, why he's continuing to buy. It could be that he's actually knows of something that's coming up that he thinks could dramatically change the equation with how SoFi is viewed in the marketplace, and course correct this dramatic downturn that SoFi has seen since that first lockup expired. Or it could just be that he is long-term bullish on the company and believes that these are relatively cheap shares in terms of like overall in the coming years or decades, I guess. They're cheaper than he would be able to get down the line. So maybe it's a longer term bet. I don't know. It's probably one of those three things, but purely speculative at this point. We'll know more in the coming weeks and months to see what hits on the news cycle, that's for sure. Bank charter is obviously something that's looming out there quite strongly as folks continue to look for clarification and information on that. Now, I'm not going to go over the analyst stuff, but still waiting on analysts to come through. I'll have some of that in the Weird World Part 3 as it comes out. And to Ortex's estimate, short interest continuing to come down today, almost 4% to level us just over 8% of the free float being shorted. Utilization now under 50%, and we saw it creeping over that last week. Now, there has been some chatter, and I've had a few messages come my way. FinViz always seems to be the outlier here. Why that is, I don't know, but they have consistently held that there's a much higher percentage of the free float being shorted than any other outlet. Yahoo, Market Beats, all the other places that we typically go to look for this information. So why they are often so much higher, I'm not sure. But obviously they are much higher than SoFi as well. So the degree to which you think that FinViz could be correct, actually, if anyone has any actual info on why they are so different, and you think that you have information on that, feel free to comment below. I'd be really interested to find out. Speaking of information to find out, one of the authors of the Gap articles responded to me, and I'm going to be setting up an interview with him. He's willing to come on and do an actual interview, so that'll be part of a video, or that'll be a video unto itself in the coming weeks. It's going to take us some time to coordinate schedules and time zones. It's going to be quite challenging, but we'll get there, and seems really willing, and so that could be really good, and that'll help clarify some of the questions around filling gaps and the data and studies that has come out about filling gaps, especially as we have this big gap looming here that will be aged. It has aged about 2 weeks at this point. I guess maybe this Thursday it will be 3 weeks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. This Thursday, I guess, Thursday or Friday, that will be about 3 weeks old. And not yet moving strongly to fill it, that's for sure. But interested to see what he has to say, and just know that that will be coming to you in the near future. Lastly, Swaggy. Now, this could change quite dramatically over the course of the week, but as of now, max pain for SoFi for this coming Friday, September 3rd, sitting at 14.5. So interesting to see the degree to which we pin to that max pain price. This interface with Webull kills me sometimes. But anyway, we closed at 14.19 today. Good thing I can accomplish this by hovering over the daily candlestick. My God. And so the degree to which we just kind of trade relatively flat all week, or if we swing one way and then swing back the other way, throughout the week, it'll be interesting to see. But per hitting that max pain and manipulation sort of being in line to drive us toward this 1450 zone, we could have a relatively sideways boring week here. We'll have to see. But I'm looking out for that. I'm looking out for any news based on the Noto buys, if there's any more to that. I'm looking out for any reactivity from institutions and or retail on something like the PayPal news. I'm looking for anything that happens as we start to constrain the price action within this triangle here. All of these things to me are what I'm keeping an eye on this week. Obviously, the volume, seeing where the volume is going to go, seeing if the MACD makes a move one way or the other, and then seeing if we can continue to at least hold that 1411 zone, just so that we don't have to, or that I don't have to worry that we're then risking dropping to 1305 if we flip 1411 to resistance. So that's where I am at the moment. That's what I'm looking for the week ahead, and we'll just have to see what happens. All right, folks, so I hope your trading week got off to a good start. I certainly always appreciate you stopping by and watching. It means a lot, and I will see you in the next video.